Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada, you know we love you in Africa, the Big C tribe, but there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave and the beautiful. December 19th, 2018, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Well, Charlton, everything's moving down here. The hot stove meetings are over in Las Vegas about baseball, but the free agents are still flying around and making deals. And last night, Charlton, down in Boca Raton, Florida, we talked about the bowl game down there last night between the University of Alabama, Birmingham, and Northern Illinois.
Yeah.
This is a team, Alabama, Birmingham, Charlton, that did not have a football program 5 years ago. And yet they entered a bowl game last night with 10 victories on the season, Charlton.
Wow.
And came out with a victory for the first time in that university's history.
Isn't that amazing, Big C? It's all about getting the opportunity. When you get the opportunity, it's what you do with it. It's all about enjoying everything. Liberty, justice for all, especially this beautiful, happy holiday season. From Big C Sports to everybody in the universe, I do want to say this segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. There's so much going on in the sports universe. You think about a bowl game down in that just saw last night, a program that wasn't even playing football just a couple of seasons ago, and they made a bowl game. They got a double-digit win season. There are programs that have been around 50 years can't win 10 games or a bowl game in the last decade. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when we think about a coach that was in Florida last year, Central Florida, Scott Frost, when he went back to his alma mater at Nebraska, and we saw the hardship that followed him. And so many of these programs want to put the emphasis on a coach, saying that, he's responsible for the wins and losses.
Right.
But the players are the ones who produce, Charlton, on the field. Without having great talent, it doesn't make any difference who the coach is. But you can also have mediocre talent, Charlton, and not be successful and be successful. It's a matter of how you can get these young men to play together.
Yeah. Coaches
get all the credit when they win. They get too much credit when they lose, Charlton.
Yep.
But the players who are out there for free get no credit at all.
They don't get, they get school credit. They don't get banking credit, Big C. I'm sure when they learn about bankers credit, they'd rather have bankers credit. I just want to say from Big C Sports, this beautiful, happy holiday season, everybody's out shopping and doing all their things, and some of us are out shopping being racially profiled, but you still got to look for the brighter side of things. The holidays, Big C. I recall the song by the great Bill Weathers. It's called Lovely Day. It's going to be a lovely day. It's always a lovely day, just waking up. From Big C Sports, may you smile more explosively. May you be grateful at the top of your lungs and telling people how much you love them. In the sports world, they go touchdown. If you're playing baseball, it's a home run. In basketball, for 3. Tell the universe how you feel about it, Big C. It's like winning the lottery. What I love about being grateful this holiday season, it's about being able to do what you love, Big C. You do what you love, and the money will follow. It's about anything you're grateful for in life, be able to do that. Sometimes when things are taken away from you, you don't realize how much you miss it until it comes back. Like that great football program that had their season canceled, their program was canceled. Some boosters got behind it. Not only were they appreciative of getting it back, they went on to win a bowl game and have a double-digit season. What does it mean, Big C? We don't have to lose something before we're grateful for it. Does that make any sense, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, I guess you wouldn't make that comment to everybody in the stock market this month. It's having its worst month, since the Great Depression. I mean, but the president's not raving about that now.
No.
It's about having the will to move forward, Charlton.
Yeah.
When you think about the demise of the program back at UAB because of financial reasons, Charlton, and they scratched the football program.
Yeah.
But there were too many people, Charlton, and even the head coach he stayed on in his teaching position. He didn't walk away and seek out a job at another university, Charlton. He believed in something that he had started. Even though a lot of the players had transferred, Charlton, a lot of them stayed at the university because they were there about an education. And this is what people don't always understand about college athletes, is that they think that they're all there thinking that they're going to catapult to the NFL.
Yeah.
More often than not, Charlton, players in college realize that aspiration about potentially playing pro football is far-fetched.
Yeah.
And so they want to concentrate on their education. And people who don't give them credit for that, Charlton, about being a student athlete instead of an athlete student, Charlton, are just wrong. You know, we don't get many broadcasters who talk about that on television, Charlton.
No.
They talk about the stats and, you know, what his draft status is and things of that nature. They don't talk about how many of these young men go on and be quality citizens in society, Charlton, not being involved in athletics. And that's what you got from the University of Alabama, Birmingham.
Yeah.
And to see this team, Charlton, get its 11th victory of the season last night, the most in that university's history, Charlton, of playing football even before the program went defunct down there.
Yeah.
But, you know, just to show that when you have an opportunity in life, Charlton, you can succeed in life or in sports. And you have to take your hats off to those young men at the University of Alabama, Birmingham. They won't be playing in a New Year bowl game, Charlton. They won't be playing in a top-ranked bowl game.
Yeah.
Probably ever in their life.
Yeah.
But what they accomplished last night, Charlton, is better than any bowl game that you're going to have this year, Charlton, because these are some young men who went there on a mission and stayed pat. We see so many players transferring from universities when they become disgruntled.
Yep.
And I can appreciate that, Charlton, because when they're recruited nowadays, coaches are promising, hey, we're going to get you into the NFL if that's what you want to do. If you want to play pro ball, this is the place to come to.
Yep.
But then when that young man finds that he can't play and he's been sitting on the bench for 2 or 3 years and he transfers, you get all this fight back from the media talking about, you know, wow, he's just walking out on his teammates.
Right.
He's leaving. But they don't tell the promise that their coach made, that he's going to come there and be the starter.
Yep.
But, you know, when you go there, Charlton, and you come in and you transfer, and let me give you a perfect scenario. University of Georgia, that everybody said was snubbed by the playoff committee and didn't make it.
Right.
Last year, they had the #1 recruit in the country, a kid named Justin Fields.
Yeah.
And he was a quarterback. But the quarterback they had the previous year, Charlton, took him to the national championship game, Jacob Fromm.
Yep.
So he was just a sophomore. And they said he had no aspirations of leaving school early and going to the NFL. He wanted to play his 4 years of college football.
Yeah.
So a lot of fight back has come today about Justin Fields transferring, leaving Georgia. There's 3 schools on his radar. That's Ohio State, Oklahoma, and one other school out there, Charlton. He'll most likely end up at Ohio State and take over for Dwayne Haskins if Dwayne Haskins declares for the draft.
Yeah.
Or he could go to Oklahoma. They got Kyler Murray, who's going to be gone after this year. But he's going to go into a prime situation, Charlton, and there's a little loophole in the NCAA that's going to allow him to be able to play immediately and not have to sit out a year.
Yeah.
But you get the drawback from people in that general region saying, why is he leaving and walking away from his teammates? Well, he went to a school, Charlton, looking at future aspirations to continue his football career.
Yep. Not
just to be there and be a cheerleader.
Yeah.
And he should be praised and applauded by all those people that are talking negatively about him, because this is a young man that's making a decision for his life. Just like when we talked about players sitting out bowl games, Charlton.
Yeah.
These universities are not taking out annuities for these young men to say, hey, you know, if you get hurt, we're going to have $10 million waiting on you on the side if you can't make it to pro football.
Yeah,
so I praise that young man for saying, hey, I'm looking out for my future.
He has to do that, Big C, and everybody knows that. There's so many people outside that just want to get what they can. Sometimes people always want to come to you with a business proposal, and they want to do something to make you rich, and it's always on its way. It's never like, here it is. When you want to buy gas, you got to pay for the gas first. You can't go in there and smooth talk the gas station attendant and say, man, I'm going to buy so much gas from you, you're going to be rich when I leave this gas station. And at the same time, they offer no money. They just want the gas. Like, they're going to talk you into giving them gas for free. I think what you said, and it's kind of a crusade that we want to start with Big C Sports. We've already been on it. I really hope when some of these news programs start telling you who has the number one recruiting class, whether it's Alabama, whether it's Texas A&M, whether it's Georgia or Oregon or anybody else, Ohio State. I hope that they can start saying, what happened to the kids that were already there? Like, where are they now, Big C? That's so important. Like, where are they now? How much did they benefit financially from going to that school? Meaning, did they learn what an annuity was, how to write and get an annuity that would pay for them and pay their income for the rest of their lives? Do they have anything other than a jacket and a hat? I think that would be great if schools and media started reporting on that, Big C. That make any sense?
Well, Charlton, it's something that's that hidden agenda by the media. You don't want to disclose the discrepancy between finances of the athlete, the university, and the coaches, Charlton. Is that they're going out there working for free, and everybody says, well, they're getting their education paid for. If you look around, Charlton, I believe the last count, there's 25 universities in America that you can go to for free.
Wow.
And if you come from a low-income household, is that you can go to this, and we're talking Ivy League schools and schools of that nature, Charlton.
Yeah.
So you don't have to go to an athletic university. You can go to an academic university for free. Even Stanford out on the West Coast, Charlton, is one of those universities that offer free education if you qualify.
Yeah.
So when they say that these kids are going there and they're getting a free education, like I said, there's 25 major universities in the United States, Charlton, that offer free education.
Wow.
So it's not about the free education that these kids are getting, Charlton, because if that was the case, you would have never dealt with segregation, not allowing minority kids into these mainstream universities, Charlton.
Yeah.
But the minute segregation was lifted, okay, we can go in and get them for free.
Yeah.
Just like Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
When they robbed the Negro Leagues, Charlton, of its young talent.
Yeah.
We'll go out and get it and pay it less and reap the benefits of it. So none of these universities, when they talk about, as you just said, a top 5, top 10 class, Charlton, none of those universities have put out that we have a top 5 class graduation rate amongst our players.
We have
a top 10 graduation rate amongst those players. And I think that's the one thing that mainstream media is missing on, Charlton, is that they don't ask that question. What's the graduation ratio of that top 10 class that you had 5 years ago?
Right.
What's the graduation ratio of that top 3 class you had 5 years ago? That's a question that's never asked because they know that's an embarrassment to the universities when everybody says that these young men are getting a free education.
Big C, that is so well said because there's a thing called affirmative action that opened the door for a lot of people that had faced discrimination historically. And then there are people who fight affirmative action. There's people in the universities and even this administration that wants to do away with some of the policies of affirmative action. But affirmative action has always existed for white Americans. It's called family. Number one is your skin color. No, white people do not face discrimination in the United States of America, not in banking, not in housing, not in employment, not in what school district your kids go to. They just don't. Also, you have the lineage family, lineage, legacy. You have that Jim Crow mentality that's always put white students first. There's no school program that has tried to block whites from going to those programs. They've always had affirmative action, just the legacy of cronyism and all the things that people do, the Good Old Boy Network that speaks on behalf of their white brethren. So when you talk about those universities in the country that are free to qualify, that's so important. I think in the world of Big C Sports, what I love that we really don't hear in other programs, again, Big C Sports, and I'm saying anyone out there in media, we qualify for the Edward R. Murrow Broadcast Excellence Journalism Award. It's for excellence in broadcast journalism. It's based on being accurate. We're the only program that says Google it. That's important. We all want to be successful. Everybody wants to be significant. But if you don't tell these young people and their parents when someone says that we're the number one recruiting class, recruited in what? That a guy's big, strong, and fast? What are you number one in? The fact that he runs a 40 and 4.5? What are you number one in? The fact that he runs for 2,000 yards as a high school kid? What are you really number one in? Start focusing on where you rank as far as helping kids have a better life leaving that school than they had coming in. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I've always been a proponent of calling schools to the plate, Charlton, on the graduation ratio of the kids.
Yep.
You know, I know there's a lot of kids that leave early. But that's something that should be pushed out by the NCAA. You know, the president of the NCAA should push that, Charlton.
Yep.
That, you know, we have this national championship 4-game tournament, Charlton. It's going to start happening, I believe, on the 29th of December is when it occurs.
Yep.
But there's nothing that's said about either one of those 4 universities, Charlton, of the graduation ratio of their players.
No, you're right.
Now, they'll talk about All-Americans that have been on the team. They'll talk about Heisman Trophy winners, Charlton, that have come from those programs. But they're not talking about graduation ratio. They'll tell you how many NFL players that they've produced.
Yep.
But they're not talking about graduation ratio. And I think that misses the boat. Mainly when you're going to recruit a kid from a parent's household. And that parent is jubilant. Oh, my son's going to go to this top university.
Yeah.
He's going to have a chance to play pro football. But if he doesn't make the starting lineup, Charlton, or even if he does make the starting lineup and he gets hurt,
yep,
what's going to happen to him then if his injury is so catastrophic that no teams drafts him?
Yeah.
And there's many players every year, Charlton, and I don't know that these young men understand when they're being recruited. I think ESPN releases a top 300 class.
Right.
The NFL only drafts 256 players a year.
Yep.
So on this top 300 class, Charlton, how many would be eligible to be drafted in the NFL? How many would be draft worthy? So there's more kids in the top 300 than what the NFL will draft next year, and that's every year.
That's a good point.
This is something that these young men need to understand. What is the potential of me becoming one of those 256? Let's be realistic about that.
Yep.
What is the potential of me becoming one of those 256 draftees?
I tell you what, Big C, we got to wake up the parents. We got to wake up the youth. We talked about affirmative action. What is affirmative action from mainstream institutions? It's all that free black labor that has built these athletic programs into $100 million programs. They didn't do it on suburban high school kids. They know it. They did it on the backs of black kids that are, for the most part, are not part of that mainstream. They're not part of that mainstream in social economics, not part of that mainstream in that good old boy network that exists, that white Americans know that's their affirmative action, the cronyism and capitalism that happens within their own communities. When the black dollar turns over, it might turn over once. When the white dollar turns over, it may turn over 7 times. That means when you get paid, your banker is Caucasian, your insurance person is Caucasian, your financial advisor is Caucasian, your dentist is Caucasian, your grocery store is in a Caucasian neighborhood, your school district in a Caucasian neighborhood. With the white school district, the student body's white, the board of directors are Caucasian. So what does that mean? You don't think that's affirmative action? They're always looking for ways to get the best technology, the most computers, the most raises. If you don't think that's the case, that white affirmative action exists, just talking to directors in California about making TV commercials. And they have the best crews, they have the best contacts. You ask them, what are these people? Who are they? What's the ethnic makeup of your crew? I mean, ask that question, because at that time you don't see diversity. Diversity means that you're the one that's going to make it diverse. So when you put money into that system and they don't hire anyone that looks like you, you're participating in that. I just think that's important because colleges do it too. You talked about it before, Big C. The top 10 recruiting class, top 10 in what? I mean, think about it. Are they the top 10 in their stats as an athlete? Are they the top 10 in their academic performance in the classroom? That's so important because we need to shut them down when you're the bottom, you're the abyss in academic performance. Also, when we give a coach a salary, coaches making $10 million, $7.5 million, $4 million, $3 million. If you're making $1 million as a D1 college coach, you're almost minimum wage. But how much money have those kids benefited from entering your program to leaving your program? That's a stat that's worth reporting to a Big C. You're supposed to improve your life when you go someplace, not make it worse. How can we ever make that change, Big C, when they start talking about those things, and it's not just Big C Sports talking about it? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, that's something that mainstream wants to stay away from, because that's been their meal ticket, Charlton.
Yep.
Feeding off the back and the carcasses of these athletes over the decades.
Yep.
you know, there used to be a show on television, Where Are They Now?
Yeah.
You know, it would be nice if every year that mainstream television would go back and even the mainstream newspapers, if they would go back every year
yep.
and take that top 300 recruiting class and say, where are they now?
Yeah.
If they did that series every year, Charlton, and run it for 5 years, 10 years,
yep.
see what happens to those top 10 athletes, Charlton. There are more failures out of those top 300 than there are success stories.
Yeah.
That's the story that they're not going to tell. And I'm not saying failures in life. I'm talking about failures in athletics.
Yeah.
That don't achieve that goal of being a professional athlete. Because there's limited positions, Charlton. Limited positions. As we said, there's 256 kids drafted
yep.
in the draft every year.
Yeah.
That means if those 256 kids made it, Charlton, there's still 256 people unemployed, but only about half of those kids make it, Charlton.
Yeah.
Maybe 125, 130 of them make it on NFL rosters.
Yeah, and that's a very good point.
So,
yeah.
Of all of those who get drafted, Charlton, and those who fall by the wayside, what happens to them at that point? How long do you hang out each season, Charlton, hoping to get signed by a team, possibly be on a practice roster?
Yep.
How long do you search that dream of hopefully getting picked up full-time on an NFL roster? And I know out of the blue moon, some players do that, Charlton.
Right.
Kurt Warner was one of those success stories who did everything prior to becoming a star in NFL, Charlton, and there's been a few others. But it's such a rarity.
Oh, yeah.
But how do you prepare a young man for success? It's, even in the Kurt Warner story, Charlton, he was bagging groceries in a grocery store.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
You know, before becoming an NFL star. James Harrison was cut a half a dozen times before becoming an NFL superstar, Charlton.
Yep.
Everyone doesn't have the ability to stick to it like that. But, you know, to have an education, and you can stick to basically anything in life. So I would like to see all of these top programs, since today was National Letter of Intent Day.
Yep.
Show us what happened to your recruiting class last year.
Yeah.
Show us what happened to your recruiting class 5 years ago, Charlton. I think that's very important when you're going out recruiting these young men and making promises to them about a lifelong venture that you're going to share with them. Show them the failures that have come through your program also. I think that's as important as the guys that have been success stories.
That's a very good point. When you go buy ground beef, Big C, you don't have labels on the beef you get, because you get your beef when it's running around in the field. And I understand you might not understand what I'm going to say, but for most people on the West Coast, when you go get beef, you want to have a barbecue or some hamburger meat. It says on the package what percentage of fat is actually in that package. It may say 80% lean. That means there's 20% fat. It may say 70% lean. That means there's 30% fat. I told you I was good at math, Big C. So when you think about that, you got to know how much lean versus fat is in that package you're buying. So the fat is what doesn't produce. The lean is what produces. Big C, the band is out on the field. The great Joe Starkey, the Cal, Berkeley, and Stanford big game call back in the day at Berkeley Memorial Stadium. I believe John Elway was playing for the Stanford Cardinal back in the day at that time, Big C, when the band ran out on the field. One of the greatest calls for sports in the Bay Area, the great Joe Starkey. San Francisco, California, the DXL Frisco Bowl, pitting San Diego State versus Rocky Long, the Rocky Long versus Ohio coach, Frank Solich. This is the oldest coaching matchup. The Bulls this season with the combined age of 142 years old. That's talking about success, Big C. Guys that you could say, track them for what they did in college. What are they doing now? They're still coaching. But I guarantee you can find guys that were in the top 10 recruiting class from even the year 2008, just 10 years ago. A lot of them are not in the coaching. A lot of them are not even in the sporting profession. Does that make sense, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you talk about those two coaches, Rocky Long and Frank Solich, you got to think about universities that fired both of those coaches a decade ago, Charlton.
Yeah.
And they're not in the bowl games this season. You think about Frank Solich. We talked earlier about Scott Frost going back to Nebraska.
Yep.
Frank Solich coached at Nebraska. Had a 76% win percentage at the University of Nebraska, Charlton.
Yeah.
And it wasn't good enough to keep his job.
No.
He's been at Ohio, Charlton, and 9 out of the last 10 years, they've been in bowl games. Nebraska can't attest to that, Charlton, that 9 out of the last 10 years that they've been to bowl games.
That's true.
But Frank Solich is still being successful. Rocky Long, has been to 7 consecutive bowl games at San Diego State.
Yep.
New Mexico is not doing that well, Charlton, without Rocky Long.
Yeah.
So when you think about, you have to worry about what you have instead of what you think you're going to get. When you look at this coaching carousel out there, Charlton, when you look at a date and she looks good with somebody else, it doesn't mean that she's going to look good with you. and that's what these universities are doing, and as well as the NFL.
Yeah.
It's like in the NFL when everybody says, okay, we got to find the next Sean McVay. Well, Sean McVay is on a losing streak right now.
Yeah.
So do you need the next coach that's going to be on a losing streak?
Yep.
Because defenses will catch up with offenses eventually.
Yeah.
Just like rookie quarterbacks. Defenses will figure you out after a couple of games of tape on you.
Yeah.
They haven't seen you, but they get a couple of games of tape. They know exactly what you're going to do and how you're going to do it.
Yeah.
And so when you go out looking for the next great coach, whether it's in college or whether it's in football, you got to think about, you might have had a bad day or two with the one that you're with, the date that you have right now.
Yeah.
But get over it. Things will calm back down.
Yep.
And that's what happens in this coaching carousel, Charlton. Frank Solich, their success at Ohio. When you look at Nebraska,
yep.
What they've had 3 coaches in the last 6 years.
Yeah.
That's a big turnover.
Yep.
Frank Solich has been going to bowl games during that time, Charlton.
That's a very good point. I want to bring up something because you teased it, Big C. Sometimes you're supposed to wait for Christmas to open up your gifts, Big C. But Big C opened up, it's called a teaser. There's a thing called Table for 6 where they get people around that looking for love, and they have you go through the screening process, and people match you with profiles that people put down on paper. Now, let me give ladies a hint. Anybody can put something down on paper. They can say, what they love and who you are and what you want to be and how they're looking at you. They can always put that down on paper. But it doesn't mean that they really have you in mind. If you think about it, I think Table for 6 went out of business, Big C. I think there's a lot of companies out there that have their Table for 6 opportunities. There's a lot of dating sites. So Big C gave a tease on what we're doing with Big C Sports, okay? If you talked about the date that may look good with somebody else, but she doesn't look good with you, these companies that tell you, date this person, date that person, you can't date anyone that you don't feel good about in your heart. It's your intuition, not what they put on a profile. Men do it all the time. They make it look good. They might drive that beautiful Bentley or Maserati, but the guy might be a bum. He might even be a pimp. It don't mean he's a good catch. But if what you're looking for is the eye candy, same thing with that woman. She might look gorgeous. May look like she just walked out of a magazine. But if she makes you throw up when you get around her, that's more important than how she looks on a magazine. Big C, is that what Big C's Date.com is going to do? We're going to put all those other date lines out of business. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I can't be a client of my own service. So I'm going to have to, rely on the results from what people text you or email us.
Yeah, that's funny.
When you think about all these services, these date lines, just like with coaches, Charlton.
Yeah.
Everybody looks good until they show up.
Yep.
And then, we get the excuses. Well, they have to get their recruiting classes in.
Yeah.
Your buddy Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M.
Yep.
$75 million, Charlton. 7 victories.
Yep.
That's a lot of money to be guaranteed that kind of money every. So he got $1 million for every victory
win
he had this year.
Yeah.
At Texas A&M.
Yep. Yep.
And so his results at Texas A&M, Charlton, were only 2 games better than what Florida State was, the school that he left.
Yeah.
So he left the cupboard bare. He went to a place that was stacked and only had 7 wins.
Yeah.
But they're going to say he has to get his own players in.
Yeah.
I think last year he had the number 2 or 3 recruiting class.
Yeah.
With the players that are already there. This year he's in the top 5 again.
Yeah.
So if he doesn't have success soon, Charlton, how can you say the dates that he's acquiring are not any good, or is he not any good as a coach?
That's very true.
John Gruden.
Very true, Big C. And I give out to all the women looking for a date, BigCDate.com coming out sometime in the future. But if you watch TV shows, sports programs, watch all of them. Every single one of them. I mean, all of them. They got stacks of paper in front of them because they really don't know what they're talking about. They're reading. They have producers writing stuff for them to just read. I challenge them. And I say it in front of the whole universe. Every sports program in the country, in fact, all over the world, if you really want to see if people know what they're talking about, turn off that teleprompter. You watch their eyes. When they look at you, it looks like they're looking at the screen. They're really looking down where the TV monitor is or the teleprompters, because most of these people, they don't know what they're doing. Just like those date.com sites that you all get on when you want to find love. You can't find somebody's voice like Big C's. Big C is not a faked out voice, it's real. It comes from the universe. That's where Big C's voice comes from. And so Big C, again, just like those table for six, you're looking for love, and people are going to write down a profile. They're going to write down what they think you want to hear. You got to go by your gut. That's how the universe communicates with you, not by what somebody puts on paper. Same thing with the broadcast companies. Everything they're doing, they're reading. They're not speaking from the heart. Big C speaks from the heart. I want to say sports is a billion-dollar industry. Boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. For every athletic and sporting event, you need athletic and event insurance. We work with Ben and Mark. They've been around half a century. They work with Big C Sports. Whether you're a pro team, a collegiate team, a high school team, or your mom and pop soccer league, when you reach out to them, let them know Big C sent you. Big C men's top 10 football. Actually, the top 10 playing tonight. Samford versus number 3 Tennessee. Virginia, number 5 Virginia versus South Carolina. And then you have number 7 Auburn at North Carolina State. When you talk about the men's top teams, just give me your thoughts. We just talked about what are these people going to be 10 years after the fact? Were they part of some top recruiting class? It doesn't matter if it doesn't benefit you down the road. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you look at college basketball and where it is today, you know, it only matters if you're a top-ranked team as far as the publicity that you get and the aspirations of moving on to the next level.
Yep.
And you talked about 3 of those top 10 teams being in action tonight, Charlton. Are they caliber NBA players? You know, we see so much of the one and done now in college. You know, when they talk about Duke University having 3 guys that will only be there for playing basketball this year and then they're gone. They're off to the NBA.
That's a joke.
Their future is already slated.
Yep.
But when you look at these other teams around the country, Charlton, I believe there's 30 teams in the NBA.
Yep.
Everybody has a first-round draft pick, so that's 30 first-round draft picks. 3 of them are coming from Duke, Charlton.
Yeah.
So that means that only 27 are left in the rest of the 125 programs Charlton is playing Division I basketball.
Yeah.
Not counting the Europeans. So every year, Charlton, just underclassmen alone, in the last 5 years, it's averaged 42 underclassmen a year declaring for the NFL draft.
Wow.
That's not talking about the seniors, Charlton, declaring for the NBA draft. So if you average 42 underclassmen a year declaring for the NBA draft, and there's only 60 players that are being drafted, Charlton, what's happening to these people? Why are these coaches and these agents out there telling them, yeah, you're going to be the next great?
Yeah.
And when we look at the NBA, Charlton, we have some mainstays that stay in the NBA for a long time, players with leniency, Charlton, that have been in the league for a decade, a half a decade.
Yeah.
That means they're not being replaced. But when you look on these rosters, Charlton, and only the first-round draft pick is guaranteed a roster spot, that means somebody's going to lose a job. That second-round pick, Charlton, majority of times than not, ends up in the G League or playing over in Europe. Was that your aspiration to go to college for 1 year and end up living in Europe for a decade, Charlton?
No.
You know, scraping out what you call a professional career, that no one knows where you are or what you're doing.
Wow.
I mean, you're earning a paycheck, but you don't have an education to back up that paycheck when that career comes to an end.
And let me bring something up, because everybody has their own choice. You do what you want to do. If you're dumb, mainstream is going to exploit you. They're going to exploit you for all your money. They've done shows on guys that made $100 million and they're broke because they were dumb. I mean, that's just being honest. They didn't even know how to get the right advisors, because some of those advisors even stole money from the Big C. I hope that the parents that think, you know what, they're going to live off their kids' earnings. You're going to get an agent, for the most part, he's going to be Caucasian. He's going to steal from you. You know how he's going to steal from you? Because he's going to put you in a contract that he's already stolen from other people from. Whenever you hire an agent, you want to interview the athletes that they worked with 10 years ago. Don't tell them how, you know, this is who my client is and I represent this guy and we got him a $100 million deal. Interview the guys that they had as clients 10 years ago. It won't take more than a day or two. They'll take your phone call, and you want to find out what they did to those guys to help them become wealthier or more broke. Big C, is that salient advice? Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, the advice from past, clients that somebody has is great advice, because you can find out what type of person this is. Was he in there for your future, or is he in there for what he can get now?
Yeah.
I recall coming out of college, Charlton, and this agent that I had signed with, and I was naive. Agents decades ago, Charlton, are much different than what they are now. They're more regulated by the leagues than what they were several decades ago. But coming out of college, Charlton, is just, you were excited because you had somebody that was interested in you that was talking about taking care of your future for you.
Yep.
And if you've never been in that situation, Charlton, coming from, a not so affluent background, and family hadn't been exposed to those type of things, and had nobody to talk me through it, realistically.
Yeah.
Even college coaches in those days, Charlton, were naive about, agents that were out there.
Yeah.
But these agents are making you all the promises. And the first, thing that made me realize that these agents weren't the best thing is that when I got my signing bonus, he wanted 100% of his money.
Oh, wow.
That's
like, dumb.
I get all mine up front. I said, hey, I don't get all mine up front.
Wow.
But just a little voice in the back of my head said, no, you can only pay him when you get paid.
Yeah.
I talked to a professor in college. He said, no, James, you only pay him when you get paid. They don't pay me my salary all up front. Every year. They pay me as I do my monthly courses here at the school. So, I had a college professor that opened up my eyes to what was going on, Charlton. And he not only was he a professor, he was a great booster there at the university. So I told his agent, I can only pay you what I get paid. So you get your percentage out of what I get whenever I get a check from the team. And, he was like, well, that's not how it works. I was like, well, if it's not going to work that way, then we're going to have to end our relationship.
Just part ways.
And so, he dealt with that, but I ended our relationship after that season. It was over with. I was like, no, I don't need you anymore. Whatever I make, I can make on my own. You're not making me anything extra. You haven't done anything beyond this contract. All you're doing is I'm going out there getting beat up, and you're collecting a paycheck. For me and most likely dozens of other players. So I think it's very imperative that, the NFL, I know they have these rookie symposiums, and the NBA also, but it's very important to bring in former players, Charlton. We all see the superstars that are out there, that are making the all-star teams, Charlton, that are getting into championship runs. But we don't see the players, Charlton, that are falling off the table.
No.
Those are the players that are most important to the potential current players that are coming in, regardless of the professional sport that you're playing. To have that access to those individuals, Charlton, to sit down and talk to them, see what path their life took. Did they leave college early? Did they get their, degree? Did they go back if they left early, Charlton, and finish up their degree? Where are they now? And what was most important to them? What was the biggest thing in their life? Was it going to the league and not being a major success, or getting that college degree that would propel them through the rest of their lives?
That's a very good point, Big C. And when you think about it, everybody has to talk about it. I love this. There used to be this thing that Hakeem Olajuwon had down in Texas, where he would bring in some of the big centers, and they would work on their skill. One of the things that I would hope would happen, and maybe it already is happening, there's a thing called Shark Tank, where they get together with investors. I think the owner of the Dallas Mavericks, he's part of it too, and they talk about how to invest your money, because we all need that roadmap. Could you imagine if Warren Buffett had a program where he simply talked with people about making good investments? Now, he has enough money to lose $100 million and still be okay. Average person does not. We know what the stock market is doing lately. But it would be great if you go to people who can help you out. Another pitfall that athletes got to look out for, coming from high school and college, they're going to set you up with women. I mean, not being flippant, but look at what happened with Lamar Odom. That was his own fault. What happened to him down in Vegas? The man almost lost his life by being stupid, being dumb, being foolish. I guarantee you, nobody that really loved him knew what he was doing. Because if they did, he wouldn't be in that environment. I'm not saying people don't have fun. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But nothing's worth losing your life. Oftentimes, these men will get set up with women, and they'll have you enjoy that woman, if you understand what I mean, Big C. At the end of the day, if you don't do what these people tell you, oftentimes they can say, that was sexual assault what you did 4 years ago. you will do what I say, I think the movie He Got Game was a big statement when it came to that, wanting to get your father out of penitentiary. So you got to sign with who they tell you to sign with. That's also something that people don't talk about, that every athlete needs to know. Even when you make $100 million, you're giving your agent some. Uncle Sam's going to get his money. But when you get hit with paternity suits and other kind of suits because you're maybe not smart, Big C, that can take a lot of your money away too, Big C. That make any sense?
Well, Charlton, a lot of these young athletes don't have guidance once they get out of the confines of their home and no longer around their parents. I mean, every coach that goes out and recruits these kids say, well, I'm going to take care of him like my own son.
Right.
But you're not moving into that multi-million-dollar house with that coach.
No.
You're staying in a dormitory room, Charlton, and you're staying in a dorm with a lot of other athletes generally at these major universities. And so you don't really have any adult guidance around you. And so you're dealing with people that are in your age bracket, and it's almost, there was a movie years ago, Charlton, it was called The Spiders, and I can't think of the name of it right now. These kids that were shipwrecked on this island.
Yeah.
And you know, these were kids governing kids.
Yeah. Making
the rules, Charlton. And that's basically what it is with a lot of college athletes, Charlton. You got kids making rules. And I can think back to when I was in college. We had that same scenario. That, you know, you were out there and you had to figure things out.
Right.
And coming from a very small town, Charlton, going into a university that was larger than the town that I grew up in.
Yeah.
You know, had a population way greater than the town that I grew up in. So you were trying to find your niche where you fit.
Yeah.
Where you fit in with everybody else. And so when problems arise, you didn't have your parentage. You could say, hey, what do I do in this situation? It was called Lord of the Spiders, what this movie was, Lord of the Spiders.
Yeah.
That these kids were running each other. That's what it's like when you put these kids on college campuses. We often hear the troubles that they get into, Charlton, that kids are being kicked out of school, that they're being arrested.
Yep.
All type of things.
Yeah.
Because that coaches lied to them and lied to their parents. That I'm going to treat you like you're my own child.
Right.
If your child gets in trouble, you're not looking to kick them out of the house.
No.
But that's what these coaches do. If these kids get in trouble, they're kicking them out of the university. So I can get another one just like you in the next recruiting class.
Yeah.
That's what they say, Charlton. They take the scholarship away. Now this kid's future is gone. You think about that in America. Every parent in America, if your kid got in trouble, that you just say, I'm throwing you away. You're gone. You're out of here. Go figure it out someplace else.
Yeah.
If every parent in America that had a child that got in some type of trouble, not being there for them, Charlton, but you love your kids, you care about your kids, and you're concerned about your future.
Yeah.
These coaches tell you that story when they come in to take your son or your daughter away.
Yeah.
But if something happens, Charlton, then they turn their backs on your children and say, well, it's out of our control now.
Yep.
But you also lied to that young adult, Charlton, saying that you were going to care for them like they were your own.
That's a very good point. It's almost like the kids shopping for the, holiday season. Everybody's happy. It's a great time of year. It's a lovely day. But when somebody comes by your house and says, I'm taking your kids shopping, you say, who are you? Oh, I'm the parent of your kid's friend. So I'm going to take your kids shopping because, the kids said that they want you to go. Well, sometimes those parents don't even communicate with other parents. And you don't let a stranger take your kid anywhere. And kids don't know any better. It's the same thing with sometimes signing with an agent. You got to talk to people who've already been in that spot. Big C, I want to just get on something real quick before we get into some Pro Bowl talk. I know there's some talk about LeBron James and Carmelo Anthony, and then Anthony Davis. I mean, it's always talk. If it's not Durant, it's Davis. If not him, it's Kawhi Leonard or whoever else about joining the Lakers. What would be the benefit? I know LeBron was in an interview saying that he would like to have, I guess he had dinner with Carmelo Anthony. There's no benefit Carmelo Anthony playing for the Lakers. Friends are friends. I understand that. Everybody's a friend. But there's no benefit in bringing him to the Lakers. His production's not there. Does that make any sense, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, the Lakers' production is not there as a whole when you look at it, Charlton. They go on this Eastern swing and they get drubbed by the Wizards. They get drubbed by the Nets. The Lakers lack continuity. By keep adding bodies to the Lakers, Charlton, you can't develop continuity.
Yeah.
And, you know, the Lakers are in this flux right now. If they had a system, they said they were going to go through building through the draft. All of a sudden, they scrapped that, Charlton, after 3 years. Now they're going through free agency, bringing in the free agents. Those things don't mesh together when you have all these young players, Charlton, and you bring in these grizzly veterans that say, hey, this is how we've played the game. That goes back to that analogy that I was giving you with the agent.
Yeah.
I want all mine up front. You wait on yours.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you bring in a lot of veteran players, Charlton. They know that their window is closing.
Yeah.
So that opportunity to be a success in the league, potentially play for a championship, it's only a couple of years left in their lifespan as a player.
Yeah.
That young player, Charlton, has a future, whether it's with that team or with another team. You saw that last night with Russell knocking down the three to put the Lakers away. Former Laker player, they got rid of him for a guy that they thought was going to be their future.
Yep.
And they ended up, the guy that they got rid of knocked him out of the game last night, Charlton.
Yep.
So when you talk about bringing in another veteran player, what young player are you going to sacrifice? Because you're not going to get rid of a veteran for a veteran. What young player do you stymie his development to bring in this guy that has struggled for the last 3 years in the league, Charlton, trying to get his footing? And to bring him in, and he's a guy that's used to playing with the ball in his hand. Everybody has seen what has happened to the Lakers with LeBron having the ball in his hand. There was even some talk back from coaching and management a couple of weeks ago about LeBron being in control of the ball. Now, you can't bring in another guy who needs the ball as much as LeBron and expect for him to be successful. He tried that in Houston. Harden wasn't giving up the ball.
No.
Chris Paul wasn't going to give up the ball. He tried that in OKC. George needed the ball. Westbrook needed the ball. So he was sitting out there as the odd man out on who needing the ball. And when you haven't worked to keep your body in peak condition like the other older players in the league, Charlton, I'm talking about hitting the weight room, toning up that upper body, getting rid of that midriff, and you can see that. That core of Carmelo Anthony is not what it was 10 years ago, Charlton. So he doesn't have the lift, and he doesn't have the shot rotation that he once had a decade ago.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Big C. I look at Cam Newton in the NFL, no matter what the organization decides with him, I hope that he gets some. Just take some time off and don't leave it up to anybody else. I think he and Andrew Luck had a similar surgery. Andrew sat out, and now he's doing better. But I just want to see Cam stay healthy. But the Pro Bowl selections, Big C, quarterbacks Patrick Mahomes and for the Chiefs, Rivers for the Chargers, and then Brady for the Patriots. Is Brady given the Pro Bowl selection based on what he's done in the past, or do you see him playing Pro Bowl ball now, Big C? Your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I mean, Tom Brady is purely a selection from the past, Charlton.
Yeah.
When you look at his numbers and you compare him to Patrick Mahomes, who's leading everybody in the NFL, he's a bona fide selection. You look at what Phillip Rivers has done with the Chargers, Charlton, also having one of the best years of his career. But statistically, Brady is not there. Ben Roethlisberger has better statistics than Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Tom Brady is getting it on the merit of his past, Charlton.
Yeah.
And this is why you can't have people sitting there saying, well, this guy, because he has all these Super Bowl appearances, he's still playing at a Pro Bowl level. Look at how the Patriots are struggling offensively, Charlton.
Yeah.
If you're really looking at putting another quarterback in the Pro Bowl, you would seriously have to look at Deshaun Watson in Houston and Andrew Luck in Indianapolis, as well as Ben Roethlisberger, Charlton.
Yeah.
They're all having better individual seasons than Tom Brady.
I agree, Big C. What about the running backs? You think about Connor for the Steelers. Here's a guy nobody really wanted because they all wanted Le'Veon Bell, but he's earned it. Maybe it's their offensive line. They used to be known as that great offensive line team, Big C, from back in the day. You have Gordon for the Chargers, but he's oftentimes injured. And then you have Lindsey from the Broncos, which is an unsung hero, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you look at the backs in the NFC, Gordon's been out a month, and he makes the first-team Pro Bowl. You know, Connor's probably out for the rest of the season, even though he's had a tremendous season and he's led, the running backs in touchdowns this season in the AFC. But Phillip Lindsay is the feel-good story in the NFL, Charlton, and rightfully so. He's the first undrafted free agent running back in NFL history to be selected to the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
So you think about that nobody in the draft felt that this guy was worthy of being drafted. They even drafted Devin Booker out of Utah. Denver did, in front of Lindsey.
Yeah.
And he's sitting on the bench watching Lindsey play and go to the Pro Bowl. But this isn't a tribute to buddies Todd McShay and Bill Kiper about how they can evaluate talent, Charles.
Yeah. I tell you what, Big C, it's all fair and love and war, but give guys the chance to get into the All-Star, a Pro Bowl selection based on what they do now, not what they did in the past. Big C, fullback Anthony Sherman for the Chiefs. Give me your thoughts on him. Not well known, but still a good player. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, the fullback is a forgotten entity in the NFL, and that Chiefs running game as well as protection for Patrick Mahomes. That fullback is an integral part of it. They just never get the notoriety anymore. You're not going to see the Tom Rasmans, anymore in the NFL blocking for Roger Craig.
Yep.
You're not going to see Moose Johnson in Dallas blocking for Emmitt Smith. Those great days of the fullback is gone, Charlton. They are serviceable players, though, still in this league.
Yeah, they still are, Big C. When you look at wide receivers, you have Hopkins from the Texans, Hill from the Chiefs. I really like him. There's Brown from the Steelers, like him a lot. Allen from the Chargers may not be as sexy a name, but he's a very good player. Big C, your thoughts?
Keenan Allen is one of those big receivers, Charlton, that is always finding a way to get open. I mean, he injured his hip in that last game against the Chiefs, and hopefully he'll be back for the playoffs to help the Chargers get on that run. But when I look at Hopkins down in Houston, Charlton, when you talk about the best receivers in the NFL, there's always the name of Julio Jones and Antonio Brown come up, Charlton. But you can no longer have that discussion of the top receivers in the NFL without putting DeAndre Hopkins in that discussion.
Nah, he's solid to me. Tight ends, Travis Kelce for the Chiefs, and then Ebron from the Colts. I think Kelce's been doing it a long time. I really like his swag. He's not Kellen Winslow, but he's a guy that gets yards after the catch, even more so than Gronkowski. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, 3 consecutive years he's had over 1,000 yards receiving. But the big guy in this is Eric Ebron. You got to realize, 6 years ago he was a top 9 pick with the Detroit Lions, and he went nowhere. You got this quarterback, Matthew Stafford, that could not do anything with him. He goes to the Colts, Charlton. He becomes an all-pro wide receiver, tight end.
Yeah.
He's leading all tight ends in touchdown receptions this year, Charlton, with 14, playing with Andrew Luck. That's all he had in his career in Detroit, playing with Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, he's done a good job. Offensive tackles, Big C, the guys you like to, I guess you never saw offensive tackle that you like, Big C, but you look at Lewan from the Titans. I really like Villanueva from the Steelers, and then Fisher from the Chiefs. There's a reason Patrick Mahomes has a lot of time to throw. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you think about those guys, Lewan was really the only true tackle, Charlton, when he came into pro football. If you look at Fisher of the Chiefs and you look at Villanueva from the Steelers, Charlton, both of those guys went into college playing a receiver position. Fisher was a tight end at Western Michigan. Villanueva was a wide receiver at Army. So when you think about the growth of those two individuals to become all-pro offensive linemen in the NFL and where they started out in college, Charlton, this is why you just need an opportunity to prove yourself.
That's always true. Offensive guards, DeCastro for the Steelers. You have Yonda from the Ravens, and then Nelson from the Colts. Give me your thoughts on which one of those three that you would make your top guy in the league, though, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you think about DeCastro, former number 1 pick, Yonda was the number 1 pick with the Ravens. But you look at Nelson. Quentin Nelson is part of that resurgence of the Indianapolis Colts. He was their first-round draft pick out of Notre Dame this year, Charlton, and making the Pro Bowl. We see the resurgence of the Colts running game as they just ran all over the Dallas Cowboys that last weekend, Charlton. A solid selection as a rookie to the Pro Bowl.
Yep, when you think about centers, the guy that hikes the ball, I think about, Wagner from the Steelers way back in the day. Wasn't a big guy, but he had the forearms based on how many push-ups he did, right? Always did push-ups, from what I understand. But then Pouncey from the Steelers, and then that's another great Steeler offensive lineman. And then also for the Chargers, Big C, give me your thoughts.
Well, you think about that, Charlton. Both Pouncey brothers, this is the first time that twins have made the Pro Bowl together on the same team. Both of these guys played at the University of Florida. They're both offensive centers, Charlton. They're twin brothers. And they made the Pro Bowl together this year, Charlton, making NFL history.
That's amazing, Big C. On the side of the ball that you really like, Big C, I know you kind of tolerate the offensive guys. It's like You like too much barbecue sauce on your ribs. You tolerate it. But the side of the ball that you really like is the defensive side. That's where you don't need barbecue sauce to hide the flavor of the ribs, Big C. Defensive ends, you have Watt from the Texans, Garrett from the Browns, and then Ingram from the Chargers, Big C. Who do you like the most?
Well, Charlton, I mean, when you look at those defensive ends, it's hard to go wrong, Charlton. You know, you think about J.J. Watt. He's done it for a long time, Charlton, as a high level, coming back off those injuries of the last 2 seasons. Myles Garrett with the Browns is proving that he was worthy of that #1 pick 2 years ago by the Browns. You look at Ingram with the Chargers, Charlton, and how that defense has come along to challenge the Chiefs for first place in the AFC West. All 3 solid selections.
All 3 solid selections. I want to get your thoughts. Interior lineman Atkins from the Bengals, Casey from the Titans, and then Hayward from the Steelers. There are a lot of Steelers. They have Mike Tomlin's toughness, that aggressive nature. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Geno Atkins with the Bengals, Charlton, has been a solid defensive tackle in the NFL for the past 5 years. He's really played well. Casey has come on strong with the Titans. I think about Hayward with the Steelers. He is a young man who grew up in the locker room in the NFL with the New Orleans Saints.
Yep.
And his dad, Craig Ironhead Hayward, was a fullback for the Saints, Charlton. And he went on to Ohio State, had a great career, and he's come and become an all-pro player with the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's amazing how that circle can turn in the NFL.
Yep, that's amazing. Outside linebackers, you have Miller from the Broncos, really like Vaughn, and then Clowney from the Texans. But there's a guy by the name of Ford for the Chiefs that's maybe not as well known, but he can ball. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you look at this position in the AFC, probably the toughest position to pick when you look at the great outside rushers, Charlton. But Von Miller has been a leader. I mean, he's got a teammate on the other side. Bradley Chubb could have easily made the Pro Bowl. But when you look at D Ford there in Kansas City, that's been the weak link for Kansas City all year long, Charlton. He's going to have to lead the surge for that team if they get into the playoffs and do any damage. They got to play some good defense. Javavian Clowney, a former #1 pick overall in the NFL draft, Charlton, is finally growing up as a defensive player.
Inside linebackers, you have Mosley for the Ravens. They've always known for their defensive prowess. McKinney for the Texans. They have a lot of good players down for the Texans. Big C, your thoughts?
They do, Charlton, and that's been their strong suit. You know, they brought in, you know, the great defensive coordinator, and he's gotten everybody playing well. But I like Mosley in Baltimore. This is a team that's always been known for great linebackers. You know, people always remember Ray Lewis, who was there, Charlton. You look at Suggs, who could have easily made it in the Pro Bowl this year, Charlton, as an outside backer. But Mosley, former Alabama Crimson Tide linebacker, Charlton, and former #1 draft pick.
Big C, cornerbacks, Howard for the Dolphins, Ramsey for the Jaguars, better last year than this year, Big C. Gilmore for the Patriots, and Ward for the Browns, Big C.
Well, Charlton, you know, when you look at Ward, he's a first-round draft pick this past season of the Browns. He was their second pick in the first round, and he has stepped up and had a phenomenal rookie season, Charlton, for the Browns. When I think about Ramsey, a lot of talk. He had great play last year, Charlton, but he hasn't played to that level. I think he was just a media pick getting into the Pro Bowl, Charlton. When I look at Gilmore, the Patriots secondary has been torched as of late.
Yeah.
You know, Howard and the Dolphins, I'm trying to figure out who's making the selections for the Pro Bowl in the AFC in the secondary.
That's funny. Safeties, James for the Chargers, Waddell for the Ravens, and Adams for the Jets. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Derwin James, another rookie, Charlton, the Chargers' first-round draft pick. You know, when you think about the position of safety, Charlton, he's been dominant. He's looked like he's been in the league for half a decade. Eric Weddle, former San Diego Charger, Charlton, out of the University of Utah, he's helped solidify that Raven defense, Charlton, and they're one game away from making the playoffs.
They're dominant. NFC Pro Bowl teams, Big C, quarterbacks, Drew Brees, you have Goff, and you have Rodgers. I don't know why Rodgers would get in, Big C. His team's not winning, but the money he's making, he should be a playoff guy. I just don't think Rodgers should make that list, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, there's no way Aaron Rodgers realistically should be on this list. I know people love him. They keep saying he's the GOAT. But, Charlton, he can't even get his team in the playoffs.
No.
You could take another quarterback, Charlton, that can't get his team into the playoffs, Matt Ryan, who has much better statistics than Aaron Rodgers this year, Charlton. But if you're going to put players in the Pro Bowl, Charlton, put the players in that are on teams that are winning.
Yeah.
I mean, so if you're winning, I mean, Mitch Trubisky deserves that nod in the NFC North over Aaron Rodgers. Look at what the Chicago Bears have done this year, Charlton, under Mitch Trubisky.
Yep. In the last 5 minutes, Big C, running backs, Gurley for the Rams, Barkley from the Giants, and Elliott from the Cowboys. Big C, your thoughts?
Charlton, it's hard to find a hard choice in this. All three of those men are worthy Pro Bowl running backs. They've all rushed for over 1,000 yards this season, Charlton. Only Barkley is on a losing team this season, Charlton.
Fullback Jasaki for the 49ers, Big C. It would be great if they had a quarterback that didn't take all the money. They could get some more people to block. But your thoughts, Big C, fullback?
Well, Charlton, when you look at the 49ers, this is a history. We talked about Tom Rathman earlier.
Yep.
When you look at Nick Mullins, the quarterback in San Francisco, Charlton, I mean, management in San Francisco really has to take a stern look at what they have in Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yep.
If they can get Nick Mullins playing quarterbacks for $500,000
of
or less,
yep.
You know, and you're paying Jimmy Garoppolo $137 million.
Oh, my goodness.
And Nick Mullins has the chance to win as many games this year, Charlton, as Jimmy Garoppolo did in his first year with the 49ers.
On minimum,
$500,000.
On minimum wage, Big C. Wide receivers, Julio Jones, you have for the Falcons, Thomas from the Saints, Thielen from the Vikings, and then Adam from the Packers. Big C, your thoughts?
Charlton, all solid choices when you look at the receiving core. I mean, it's hard to make an argument against that. But I will. There's one receiver, Charlton.
Who's that?
Mike Evans in Tampa.
Oh, yeah.
Mike Evans is second in the NFL, Charlton, in receiving yards. Even though he's playing on a losing team, so is Adams in Green Bay, Charlton. But you snub Mike Evans, and he's second in the NFL in receiving yards, Charlton, and he's been in the top three in the last 3 years in receiving yards.
Very good point. Last 4 minutes, tight ends, Ertz for the Eagles, and then Kittle for the 49ers. Big C, your thoughts?
For Ertz, Charlton, you know, he's going to have over 100 receptions on this season for the Eagles, Charlton. But when you think about Kittle, he had that 240-yard receiving game.
Yeah.
He had a breakout game, and he's had a breakout season with the 49ers, Charlton. You know, it's amazing that the 49ers has put this many players on the Pro Bowl team.
Yep, that's amazing, Big C. Offensive tackle Smith from the Cowboys, Armstead from the Saints, and then Williams from the Rams. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I have concerns about two of those players. That Smith, who has missed several games with the Cowboys this year, and also Williams, who has missed several games with the Redskins. You got to look at teams. The Rams don't have an offensive tackle, Charlton, in the Pro Bowl. The Bears don't have an offensive tackle in the Pro Bowl, Charlton. They're leading their divisions. So a lot of these Pro Bowl selections are based on past performance, not what have you done for me lately, like Aaron Rodgers.
Offensive guards, last 3 minutes, Martin for the Cowboys, Brooks from the Eagles, and then Turner from the Panthers. Could have protected Newton a little bit better. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you think about that. You know, Martin has had another formidable year. You look at what Ezekiel Elliott's done around. I look at Turner and the Panthers. Here's a team that's on an 8-game losing streak, Charlton. You look at Brooks and the Eagles potentially may not make the playoffs, Charlton.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's a lot of other worthy players around the league that are not getting the nod from these ballotters about being in the Pro Bowl. They're looking at guys that they know from the past.
Yep, so they know from the past for sure. The centers, the Mack from the Falcons, Unger from the Saints. Your thoughts?
Well, Mack has been a solid performer, Charlton, ever since he's been with the Falcons. This is his third consecutive Pro Bowl with the Falcons. Unger, you know, the top-ranked team in the NFL, Charlton, with the Saints. Best record in the league. But I also got a question. Why don't the Rams have their center in there, Charlton? If they got the top rusher in the NFC, you know, they got one of the top passers, and yet you go to the Atlanta Falcons, a team that won't make the playoffs, and make their center a Pro Bowl center.
I understand, Big C. Defensive ends, Jordan from the Saints, Lawrence from the Cowboys, and then Hunter from the Vikings. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, all three of these players can get at it. When you think about Lawrence, he's playing on a franchise tag with the Cowboys this year, Charlton. They're going to have to find a way to keep him in a long-term contract. Jordan is part of that anchor of the Saints defense, Charlton, that have propelled them to the best record in the NFL this season. Hunter has been a solid developing pass rusher in Minnesota.
He's amazing, Big C. Defensive tackles, Donald from the Rams, Cox from the Eagles, and then Hicks from the Bears. Your thoughts?
Charlton, a solid three group of defensive tackles. When you look at all three of those, Charlton, They're all worthy. Fletcher Cox has been the staple of that Eagles defense, Charleston, the past couple of years. We know what Darnold means to the Rams, the highest paid defensive player in the league and worthy of it, also leading the league in sacks. Hicks has helped solidify the Bears' defense and return them back to their glory days.
Outside linebackers, Mack, Khalil Mack. John Gruden doesn't know who he is. Mack from the Bears, Kerrigan from the Redskins, and then Barr from the Vikings. Big C, your thoughts?
Charlton, all of these former number one draft picks, all of them have performed to an all-pro level. They were worthy of their draft status years ago in the league. Kerrigan out of Nebraska, Barr out of UCLA, and Mack out of University of Buffalo. Charlton, just a solid group of three young, excellent defensive players.
NFC defensive players, inside linebackers, Kuechly from the Panthers, and then Wagner from the Seahawks. I really like both of them.
You know, Kuechly probably one of the most intelligent linebackers in the entire NFL, Charlton. Bobby Wagner has solidified that former Legion of Boom up there in Seattle. Charlton had them one game away from the playoffs.
Big C, last minute cornerbacks, Fuller from the Bears, Peterson from the Cardinals, Slade from the Lions, and then Jones from the Cowboys is off the hook.
Well, Charlton, when I look at Peterson and the Cardinals and I look at Slade from the Lions, you have two abysmal teams on defense, Charlton, and yet you're saying they have the best cornerbacks in the league, Charlton, that they can't stop anybody on game day, but you're going to reward them with being in the Pro Bowl, Charlton. They've getting these Pro Bowl nods because they were in the Pro Bowl before, Charlton. These are bad selections.
We'll sell no wine before it's time. Last one, the safeties. Jackson, the Bears. Smith, the Vikings. And then Collins, the Giants. Your thoughts?
Well, Collins, once again, Charlton, one of those players. He's playing in obscurity in New York, but he's playing in that big market, so they think that he's doing something right. And you know, I like Smith. He's always been that guy, Charlton. He's that blue-collar safety in Minnesota. Jackson with the Bears, Charlton, he's been a big play, you know, performer. But one thing I want to make a note of, Charlton, in all these Pro Bowl selections, your buddy John Gruden, the Raiders, for the second time in their history, does not have a Pro Bowl selection. John Gruden's first year as a coach, you think about this, Charlton, every year of the previous regime, the Raiders had Pro Bowl selections.
Wow.
They fire Del Rio, they bring in John Gruden, Charlton, and the Raiders don't have a Pro Bowl selection for the first time in 15 years with John Gruden running the helm in Oakland.
Big C, you always stick with the facts. That's why Big C Sports should be voted the winner of the Everett R. Morrill Award for 2018. Back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young men, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, with slow days in sports, as people want to say, because you really don't have a lot of football games. You know, I looked at the media. I watched this game last night, but I watched the media today revel about LeBron James getting his shot blocked. And it's like LeBron James has had his shot blocked before in high school and in the NBA. I could not understand what was a big deal about it. Matter of fact, the young man that blocked his shot for the Nets blocked two of Blake Griffin's shots in one game earlier this year against Detroit. So when we talk about the decline of a LeBron James, you know, pump your brakes a little bit, guys. Everybody gets their shot blocked in the NBA.
It happens to the best. Tonight's schedule in the last 30 seconds, Cleveland at Charlotte, San Antonio at Orlando, New York at Philadelphia, Phoenix at Boston, Indiana at Toronto, Brooklyn at Chicago, Washington at Houston. Be careful how many steps Harden takes tonight. New Orleans at Milwaukee, Detroit at Minnesota, Golden State at Utah, what a game, Memphis at Portland, and OKC at the Sacramento Kings. Big C, you can follow Big C Sports every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the number one network in the United States of America. Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, as we always tell you, there's never, ever any excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman in trouble, please call 911. Nobody should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you, on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.